difference a few days makes, Charles. We're not flooded right now. It's a beautiful day, actually. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for starting us off here. And I think we want to show progress. This is progress that under the Bidenomics. You're building from the basement up, from the bottom out. Look at this shithole. I mean, this is unbelievable. On the corner of 28th and 7th, you have a nice cobweb here, a big-ass spider in the middle, or an insect.
Yeah.
A big web, I don't know if you'll be able to capture it, but...
Well, it's the spider itself that is mostly catching my... Let's see if we can focus on this guy. Yeah, look at that thing. So people who know about spiders, that to me looks like an extremely large spider for New York City. Yeah. But the reason I wanted to show you this, Charles, is that I was looking... Oh, good. It's marked off. It's a hole. That's the whole problem right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
like McKinsey studied it. Is it a hole or is it, a piece of plywood?
Yeah,
We need a study on that.
I mean, again, the reason why I wanted to come over here is because there were a number of videos. It seems like there was extensive flooding in Brooklyn.
Right.
But Manhattan, it was pretty limited and localized. Now, I went looking yesterday for the A train stop, and what it is, you pointed out rightly, that there really is not a 28th Street stop. You know what? I think there is, but it's abandoned, and it always drives past it. That's what it is.
Is it? Okay.
And so that's why I was confused, and I looked at that video again that showed the flooding, and the flood was coming out of a door on the track level. So it wasn't like some deep tunnel flooding. It seemed to be coming out of a room. And my question is, does this hole lead to that room? Could we have prevented some disastrous flooding by maybe putting a tent over this? Or, Miranda Devine pointed out that Sydney, Australia is susceptible to all kinds of Pacific Ocean weather, and that they get much more rain than that, but because of high quality infrastructure and designing drains that can move this kind of water away, they don't get flooded out. And what I wanted to point out for our viewers and for anybody is that while we're wasting money paying for unvetted, logically speaking, some quantity of dangerous criminals, Elon Musk spotted somebody coming in with teardrops tattooed on their face, which is usually an indicator that the person has murdered people. So we're using money that should be used to prevent the subway from flooding so that people can get to work, so that businesses can thrive, so that the city can have tax money to actually solve some problems, rather than all of this political theater that is designed to just get more federal money into New York City's coffers. This is a new construction. Look at how much graffiti is on it, Charles.
That's right. Progress. Well, I mean, what we have in the private sector, in theory, are people who are zealously making sure that businesses actually make a profit. So they're not, let's let these people go.
Being super calm.
Let's go for a walk with my dog.
I know. This is the way I feel. I feel this way and that way. Anyway,
but the private sector wants business to succeed.
So there's some control over waste. Waste does occur, as we'll discuss when we talk about the fake private sector businesses of the Biden and Clinton and Obama and Bush crime families. Look at this guy.
Yeah, well, he's conveniently located when the store opens.
He's ready.
And when he wakes up.
God almighty. And there's another one.
Well, this is the weed store.
There's another one.
It's there for your convenience. Yeah. Now, whose stuff is this?
It is.
That could be a bomb.
Let's walk away from it. But anyway, but in the private sector, there's control. So if you want to be sensible in the way you construct a building, you don't say, okay, I'll hire a construction firm. You just time and materials, and you charge me whatever you want on the time and materials. You don't do that. There's another one over there, just to your left. So maybe get a picture of it's just everywhere. So in the private sector, there's some control. In the public sector, there's evidently no control at all, right? We've decided now that Ukraine is far more important than Manhattan. And we have, this tin pot douchebag,
Dick
Miller, who
Miller.
in his exit speech, he calls the President of the United States a wannabe dictator.
Ridiculous.
And this is, as Victor Davis Hanson, who's very level-headed, pointed out, Milley is a dictator himself.
If I'm not going to this, I want energy to be at the
Well, he's the guy who called China.
Right. He had no authority to do that. Just to call his Chinese counterpart.
Weed store out of business.
Yeah, it was the best
I mean, how is
cheesecake
that
on
not?
earth.
This was a very good bakery. I was sad when it closed. How is it not treason, Charles? Why? How do they decide who's getting charged? Ooh, that's been there forever and it's closed, and that's a bar.
Yeah. I mean, look at this.
What does it say?
Are you seeking treatment for opioid use disorder? We want to help. Join our study. I mean, I think
Whoa.
the people who are looking at this are probably, not able to read the sign.
Right. I think I will join that study.
That's right.
And look at this, detox all over the place.
And then we have a guy in the corner there. This is the migrant
Yes, right.
disposal place, Flexibus.
Interesting that so many of these businesses, well, I guess,
Probably going to knock the buildings down
Yeah.
and put up another hotel for migrants. But in the public sector, getting back to it, there's no, you have to spend money every year, and if you don't spend all the money that's allocated, you can't increase it the next year. So
Right.
they just burn money. They're literally in the business of burning money.
it promotes waste.
And there's no check whatsoever on grants to private contractors. And I was shocked, for example, to see that in that story that got buried. Let's go up here. Back. Isn't that the place over there?
Yeah,
You want to walk up that way?
sure.
So I was shocked that they finally got around to arresting a private contractor who somehow had sensitive tax information, including Donald Trump's tax returns. How does a private contractor get sensitive material and have the ability to release that, sell that information to the media? And just, look at these guys. These are all just fresh off boat on the right.
Oh yeah, my gosh. Wow. Charles, why are these all 20-year-old African men? And why are we
Well, there's some more here.
paying? Yeah, so this is a housing facility right here. They told me. This thing.
I guess.
And look, here we've got our bicycle parking lot.
Yeah.
No license plates, obviously. How you guys doing? Oh my God, we got a barber shop here. See, people don't want to be photographed. Generally, people who aren't breaking the law don't care.
Well, don't you need to have a license to be a barber?
I don't know, but
do.
don't you need to not be starting businesses in the middle of the sidewalk so that people who paid money to lawyers to come here and get a visa and work their whole life to open a barber shop in New York City are now going out of business because somebody's cutting hair for $5 on the sidewalk?
Well, I'm sure he's going to pay income tax.
What if he cuts that guy's ear?
Problem.
So I'm saying these people are riding bicycles around New York City, no insurance, no license, no idea what they're doing, hitting people, cracking their skulls. Before we get too into everything, Charles, let me just remind everybody that in just about 15 minutes, we're going to be continuing our conversation in the First Amendment Forum. People are going to be able to join us on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, where I've continued restoring some videos. I got a request this morning, Charles, from somebody who wanted to see a David Hawkins video about the JFK assassination that we produced in 2019. So
Wow.
I've restored that on Odyssey because some of these videos have been deleted from channels where if I restore them, like Vimeo, for instance, will say, oh, you're restoring a banned video, and then it'll cancel the whole Vimeo channel. So Odyssey is the place to go if people want to see legacy content. It's also the most economical way to sponsor the show for only $3 a month. So I also hope people will read the Twitter coup on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. And before we leave this YouTube segment, Charles, I want to get into something that you brought to my attention this morning. Why don't you lead us off and tell us what it was that you sent me, and then I am going to drop some info on you.
Okay.
That I
Hopefully
think will
not
be-
napalm.
No, but it's, you know what? If what I have found is what I think it is,
Right.
I think it's going to change people's fundamental understanding of what's going on between Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Okay. So in Zero Hedge this morning, there's a piece about how yet another grifter in the Biden family, and I don't think there's any straight person it would seem in the Biden family. You're going to stop, sir. And how one of Hunter's ne'er-do-well daughters, Naomi Biden, was living in the White House while she was working at Arnold and Porter and representing a foreign government, the government of Peru, without registering as a foreign agent, as is required. Now, this is, basically what the Clintons. This is their whole business plan, the Clintons' business plan and the Clinton Foundation. You're operating, whatever you want.
Here, we could go up there.
Careful. Moron. You shouldn't be able to ride at that speed. Because you can't course correct if somebody, grandmother, goes out wrong. Anyway.
That's
So,
Naomi Biden's working
she's
there.
working at Arnold and Porter, living in the White House. And then I remembered that the 13-page summary, it's really 12 of substance, the 13th page is a signature, 12-page detailed analysis by the whistleblower of what James Biden said, according to the
in his transcribed interview to Congress.
Right. That interview occurred. No, that wasn't to Congress. I don't think that was
the Ways and Means Committee.
No, that was it may have been released by them, but this is the IRS special agent, one of the two whistleblowers who has been trash talked by Hunter Biden's team. His 12-page of substance stuff. That interview, which involved FBI agents.
I think it's a deposition, technically, right?
I guess. I don't know if it's an interview or a deposition, but that document is a lengthy document, 12 single-spaced pages, lots of things discussed, lengthy interview by IRS, FBI, U.S. Attorney, DOJ representatives. I think it was in 2019. I may have that wrong. But the crucial element is that it was the law firm representing James Biden was Arnold and Porter.
Yes.
The same law firm that where Naomi started out as an intern in 2019 and became an employee, a full-time employee in 2021, literally as Joe was sworn in.
There's more, Charles.
Okay, great.
So the original article cited in Zero Hedge that was published on the New York Post goes on to say that Naomi Biden is not listed on the website with a lawyer page the way every other lawyer is. And they've also seriously limited the number of cases where she's even mentioned. Right. So this conversation took us to Celtic Capri, which you had previously identified as being an LLC that is associated with Joe. And so what I did was I went over to opencorporates.com and put that in there, and it revealed that the agent of record is a law firm called Monzak, Mirsky, McLaughlin, and Browder.
Really?
And I said, Browder? Wait a minute. Now, first of all, it was giving me a little difficulty logging in, but then I went to the website for Monzak, Mirsky, and Browder, and oddly, they say, oh, it's under construction. We're launching it soon. Now, that's weird to me, Charles. I think here's the more important part. So I did get to log in, and it showed that they're the agent of record and that the thing was incorporated January 1st, 2017. Excuse me, January 30th, 2017. So somebody's freaking out that Donald Trump has won the election and he's just been inaugurated, and we need to supercharge this Ukraine plan. Let's get an LLC started. Let's get this sketchball law firm that doesn't have a website that's got somebody associated with it, the last name Browder, which, are you aware that Joe Biden sponsored the Magnitsky Act and is directly involved with Bill Browder?
I didn't know that.
So I don't know if this Browder law firm is related to Bill Browder, but I mean, Browder is not an uncommon last name, but at the same time, I don't know anybody with the last name Browder. They could be related. What do you think of that information, Charles?
Well, I mean, it's interesting, and we need to run it to ground to see if there is an actual connection to the very suspicious Browder family, where the father of the guy, Bill Browder, was the chair of the American Communist Party. And the son, I believe, wasn't he kicked out of Russia? I think he was.
Yes, he relinquished his U.S. citizenship and became a citizen of the United Kingdom to avoid paying taxes. And according to facts that Lee Stranahan has identified, Browder and Mikhail Khodorkovsky were centrally involved in the basically theft of the national resources of when the Soviet Union was sort of denationalized. They stole all that stuff.
Right, and that's the business model. I mean, we go back to 1988, 89. That's in 88 roughly. In the East is when privatizations really took hold, but they started earlier than that in the West. When Reagan and Thatcher were in power, beginning in 81, 82 timeframe, the UK was basically controlled by the equivalent of our federal government. Most of the companies were owned by the government of the UK, and many of them were privatized in transactions that people believe, in hindsight, were fire sales.
Put the leash on the dog, asshole.
What was his problem? Anyway.
He was staring at us. And then he started saying something, but his dog is pissing on the thing off leash.
Idiot. Anyway, so if you go back to 80, 81, well, there's your favorite store.
Yeah.
Interest rates were very high in the West, and in consequence, the values of equities were very low. So if you privatize something in that environment, you're going to get a price that seems low. Then as the governments, in a coordinated fashion, lowered interest rates, it popped the values of all these privatized entities way up. And so a number of people validly looked.
These guys are very concerned that we're filming them, Charles. This is like the Migrant Park. Sorry, the value goes
way up. And so I think that process of privatizing a lot of government-controlled assets began in earnest in East Europe after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And then when the Soviet Union imploded, it continued across the former Soviet Union.
That had to be the biggest one, though.
Yeah, and a lot of those transactions, in the later transactions, interest rates had already gone down. Let's go into the shade.
Yeah.
But we'll have to
wait.
The later transactions centrally involved people like Browder and Mark Rich, and George Soros, and people like that. And there the game was
see that guy?
Stay away. I know, but that guy, he could have a knife. There.
But it's every day. There's more and more of those guys.
And
soon they're going to overpower everything, and you're not going to be able to go out without a weapon and an expectation of being attacked.
Yeah, it's a combustible situation. So back then, though, because I don't know how much more time we have on Celtic Capri, the significance there, the story that we broke long ago, the first significance is, ladies,
not a lot of clothing there.
I think they've been out since yesterday.
I gotta say, you're right.
It's a walk of shame. But anyway, the Celtic Capri thing is interesting because, in my experience, and I think in the experience of most people who've been in business for more than a day, it's extremely unusual for a business to be profitable in its first year of operation.
Sometimes 5 years.
Yeah, but it's certainly to the tune that Celtic Capri was, because evidently Celtic Capri started officially on January 30th, but somehow was profitable. Let's let this guy go. It was somehow profitable enough. Do you want more, or do you want the bagels? Was profitable enough to pay Joe, a lot of money in 2017. So how much work was done prior to January 30th, 2017 in contemplation of Celtic Capri?
Right.
And I would guess that work began in 2009, is my guess, when Joe became vice president.
What kind of law firm? It's not like they're new. They've obviously been around since at least 2017. Isn't it weird that this law firm and Joe Flynn's research company, they have no websites? What kind of legitimate company in 2023 doesn't have a website. You're not even technically in business, and you have a website.
Right. Well, what I would say to you is that this betrays, there's certain hallmarks of theft and corruption. If you have the mentality, as the Bidens clearly do and the Clintons clearly do, that because Bill and Hillary have devoted themselves to, quote, a lifetime of public
this is
service,
okay.
you're just allowed, because you created the environment that made all these billionaires rich, you're just allowed to get your taste of everything. It's $1 million speech, an off-market opportunity to be
I
in
think
an
they
investment
really
fund.
believe that.
They absolutely believe that. And that is just bullshit with a capital B.
It's justification.
Well, and we're either going to see Washington, D.C. cleaned out in 2024, which I hope so, but I don't know that it'll happen.
Yeah.
Or the real story, I think, is that people like Matt Gaetz, who have got a lot of money, and McCarthy has a lot of money, and all the senators are pretty wealthy, they're probably looking at this and saying, we kind of like the Biden plan, right? We got bills to pay too. And certainly AOC is all in on it. How does she have 2 fancy apartments at the Tesla and her wardrobe on one salary? I don't understand that.
I think she got rid of the Tesla, didn't she?
Well, the point is, at one point she's got 2 leases, and maybe she leased the Tesla too, all on a $165,000 salary, having to pay New York City and Washington D.C. taxes.
Good point, but they raised it to 200-something thousand. It's still not enough.
It's not enough.
No.
Social Security, and I don't think she's shopping at the Burlington Coat Factory. I think her wardrobe is pretty
The
expensive.
coating factory is what one of my ex-wives used to call that.
So,
what you're trying to coat? I don't know.
But back to this Celtic Capri thing. It's not like there's an outlier here. That there's just one incident, one shell company, and
pattern
one wire
and practice.
But yeah, it's an ongoing pattern and practice dating back to when he became the senator from the credit card companies.
Before that, right as he got involved, when he was all over the church committee and getting in with Frank Church, that's where he cut his bones.
Right. Well, I would argue even before that.
Maybe, right.
Yeah. But so the point here is that it's not like we're at a place now where it is obvious that the house is on fire. We don't need to discuss whether it's on fire. It's on fire. The only question is,
we don't need no water.
The only question is, are we going to try to put it out and rebuild, or are we just going to let the country burn to the ground?
They're throwing gasoline on it.
That's the direction we're going. We're Michael Garner, Eric Brown, burn it down, burn it down. That's what we're doing around the country.
Which way you want to go?
I don't care.
Let's go up here.
Okay. It's a coordinated team here.
Yeah, that's not a smart way to go around New York City, because you're basically advertising that you're dopes from Europe and someone's going to rob you. Charles, you know that this is the New Yorker hotel where Nikola Tesla spent the last years of his life. I've recently learned that there is alleged to have been some plan to put some sort of broadcast tower on the roof of that building and use it to, Tesla had a whole plan to broadcast electricity along radio signals so that you'd have not only wireless communications, but wireless electricity.
Interesting. I've never been inside that place.
It's a dump.
I'm sure. With a capital D.
Well, probably it was nice 150 years ago when they made it.
Yeah, I guess they knocked this thing down here.
Yeah. Well, Charles, we've only got about a minute here until we make our way over to the First Amendment Forum. We're going to get even more in depth on Bill Browder, the relationship to Joe Biden, this whole issue with Celtic Capri, all of every day there's incredible evidence, in the form of bank records, material witnesses coming forward, whistleblowers working for the IRS, so much direct evidence of crime happening. And Jonathan Turley said at that hearing that you do not need a check made out to Joe Biden to show that he's being bribed. So
he's right.
We'll get into all of that stuff. Here's a Roush Mustang.
Nice.
Probably supercharged. Anyway, we'll be back in just 5 minutes, so join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Any last words, Charles?
Oh, here we have G.I. Schmo ahead of us.
Exactly. Don't forget to follow Charles on Twitter at Charles Ortel, and you can follow my current Twitter account at JG_CSTT. We'll be right back. Stay with us, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Getting office supplies.